Hello everyone. This video is about the SQL to NoSQL migration challenges. This is based on the survey paper that we have done as a group work in our MSc degree program. I am GP Madhushan. Before we start, let's see our agenda. In this video presentation, we are going to discuss about following basic topics. What is SQL? What is NoSQL? Select an appropriate NoSQL category. Lack of specific database language. Complex queries. Non-roots identity. Out of the acid. Preventing open data. The big problem of human
With the
mindset.
amount of data present in
Moving
the world,
SQL
it's
to
almost
NoSQL.
next to impossible to manage data without proper databases. Now in the market, today there are different kind of databases present, and deciding on the best database which suit your business can be overwhelming task. So let's get understand with SQL versus NoSQL. SQL is a standard language which stands for Structured Query Language. SQL is the core of relational database and is used for accessing and managing the database. So this language basically helps you to retrieve and data from a database, whose structure is completely made of tables with rows and columns. And these tables are interlinked with each other with specific values, which can be retrieved from these tables with the help of queries as it is. You can see on the screen over here, we are trying to retrieve the student ID and the student first name from the student table. So if you observe the query, you can clearly see that the query has SQL syntax or keywords, and also has few parameters which indicate what data has to be retrieved. So basically the select and the from are the SQL syntax keywords, and the student ID, student name and the student are few parameters which indicate what data has to be retrieved from where. SQL also enables you to maintain relationships between tables. Now these could be either one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship, many-to-many relationship, or self-referencing relationship. When a single row in a table X is related with single row in table Y, it is called as one-to-one relationship. When a single row in table X is related with many rows in table Y, it is called as many-to-one relationship. When many rows in table X is related with many rows in table Y, it is called as many-to-many relationship. And finally, self-referencing relationship is one row in a table is related with same table row. In briefly, SQL is a language which helps you to retrieve and manipulate data from well-structured databases with the help of queries and commands such as insert, update and delete, and also maintain relationships present between the tables in a database. So I hope this SQL part is clear. Now let's just understand what is NoSQL. NoSQL is most commonly known as not only SQL. Database provides a mechanism for storage and retrieval of data, and it's the next generation database. This kind of database has no specific schema and does not have tables with rows and columns storing data values, but can definitely handle large amount of data. So if you consider the example on the screen, we have an student info database which has two collections, that is the student and the course collection. Now each of these collections have documents which are basically the data values. So if you just want to understand these terms, then you can just consider the collection to be your tables and the documents to be your fields in the tables. This kind of database do not have to use the same schema for the presence of multiple documents in one collection. So since NoSQL has dynamic schema, that means that multiple documents can be present in a single collection, and also each collection can have different documents. Apart from this, let me just also tell you that there is no specific query language present in NoSQL. So basically the language that you use to retrieve data is complete infrastructure based. That is basically how you store your data and where you store your data. Lastly, there are no or very few relationships present in NoSQL database, as you do not have a predefined schema. But you do have a dynamic schema in which we can put all the required information in a collection. When you have a dynamic schema and you have the option of putting all the required information in a single collection, and the collection can differ in the same schema itself. Actually do not need any relationship to be present. So that's how NoSQL does not have or has very few relationships. So if I just have to summarize NoSQL for you, then NoSQL is a type of database which do not have predefined schema, a query language, and has no tables. It follows a method of sorting data in a dynamic schema with less or no relationship and can handle vast amount of data. So now that we know what SQL is and what is NoSQL.
The first challenge is selecting appropriate NoSQL database category. Relational databases are based on the tables which stores data in rows and column structure using number of related tables. Different SQL databases such as SQL Server, Oracle has common database architecture, and it is easy to apply the conceptual model with database implementation. But when moving to the NoSQL type databases, there is no consistent structure for every database. There are four NoSQL database categories as document database, key value stores, graph stores, white column stores. In document database, data is stored in JSON type as arrays and objects. When the schema is growing, it can hold nested document itself, which makes the data structure more complex. Key value stores are just store each item as key and value pair. This key, also known as attribute, and value can be piece of data or object. Here, the schema is defined per item and is much simpler compared to the other NoSQL types. Graph stores are very complex, and it is network of information that link together in multiple paths. Graph stores can have structured data, semi-structured data, or unstructured data together as a mesh, and it integrates the data by different sources. These types of NoSQL are critically support for big data models in social media or search engines. White column stores are common with shape of relational database model which uses tables, rows and columns for stored data, but difference is same table can have different column name for different rows. This structure has optimized the query processing over the large set of data. Because of this wider diversity, it can comes more to competitive edge when selecting appropriate NoSQL solution for the problems. Also, higher skill set and practices should be needed to implement the databases and integrate with the software systems. Our next challenge is lack of specific database language. In relational database world, every database used specific universal language to work with databases. Structured query language provide the needful for both data definition and data manipulations. But in NoSQL world, there is no specific query language to deal with data. Instead, it uses various language commands from one database to another. NoSQL database languages are not well defined as in SQL. For that reason, it is also known as unstructured query language. For example, MongoDB uses unstructured query language to manipulate with data, and it should be specified the MongoDB document by various properties. Next one is limitations in relationships. Because the NoSQL databases are out of the boundary of relational concept, it stores the data in the form of documents or objects. The data is probably stored and returned in the JSON format, and the required relationships among the data should be matched in the developer end. As a result, the maintenance of the relationship between the data is beyond the database layer, and it should be controlled by the application layer by programming code. This could be much work and complex task compared to the relational model database systems. Next problem is dealing with complex queries. When considering the NoSQL database, such as MongoDB, it does not has tables or any relationship. Instead, contains set of documents with data arrays, objects, or embedded documents self. But in relational database, the tables are tightly together with relationships because it observes the defined schema. It enables to handle complex queries using multiple tables via joins. It is not simple as relational model to make complex queries with NoSQL for select data using the different types of joins. Instead, the strategy should be developed using the application code by the developer. Next problem is maintaining the identity with non-roots. Here, the problem associated with NoSQL is non-root objects. It means some database objects can embedded another object as parent-child hierarchy, and this can be cause to identity problems for the child objects. The parent object, also known as the root object, and database set unique key or an ID to them. In some scenarios, there will be the situations that require to access the child objects uniquely. But in NoSQL, there is no proper way to address this situation. Our next problem is about ACID principles. Out of the protection of ACID, NoSQL database systems are highly targeted to provide the high quality of performance, usability, and scalability for the market trend. When achieving the priority values of NoSQL, it is eliminating the guarantee of atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability enriched by the ACID principle. For example, atomicity is impossible with NoSQL MongoDB databases because the data is stored in multiple documents. Through this, the responsible of maintaining the correctness of the data is come on the application code from the database management system. Preventing open data. When planning a NoSQL database system, there is high risk on breaking the business rules because of the lack of some principles available with relational model. Referential integrity is one of the important constraints on the relational database, which determine the existence or mode of related data when some data is being updated or deleted in the database. But with NoSQL database, it cannot provide such a guarantee because of the absence of key constraints. Here, it can be caused to keep unnecessary data inside the database without any purpose, or sometimes the required simultaneous modifications will not be applied with the related data. This situation is granting the form of open for the data and provides unexpected business rule breakpoints.
Challenges of relational only mindset. The biggest challenge of shifting from SQL to NoSQL is not only on the technical factors, but also the human's pretended mindset. Even though NoSQL addressing to most of the modern world database challenges, still people depends on the thinking pattern of relational model. It is much like developing Java program using procedural paradigm or trying to code double OP in old C-based procedural language. Composing the relational concept with NoSQL is often produce frameless database solution, and it terminates the dozen of benefits offering in NoSQL. Sometimes developers thinking in database model as relational friendly pattern even it is not applicable for the application itself. In such a case, people are tending to bend the application with database instead of database modeling. In NoSQL philosophy, the database model should be focused on that how is the app should be interacting with real world data rather than limiting the data to the specific schema modeled by rows and columns. Moving an existing SQL app to NoSQL. Let's see how we can migrate from SQL to NoSQL. Direct migration of the relational database system to the NoSQL is impossible as the mentioned details previously. It should be sensitively identify the shape of the application and its database requirement. There are so many limitations of techniques and principles with NoSQL compared to the familiar things of SQL database model. When planning NoSQL model, those features should be achieved by alternative NoSQL features or strategical method to be found. Once the model is planned, appropriate NoSQL database type can be selected for the implementation. The migration of data from relational database to NoSQL can be done using exporting methods and independent file format such as CSV or JSON. Also, some features can be used provided by NoSQL database systems such as bulk insert. Even though the migration techniques are existing, serious unexpected errors can be emerge in many cases. It should be guaranteed the effectiveness of the migration before it is going to further application development stage.
The biggest challenge of moving to NoSQL is the human factor rather than the other technical issues. During the decades of time, developers have been bind with relational model and its mindset. Hence, it is still challenging to move for new data modeling philosophy together with various NoSQL database types. So, many technical challenges also motivate the human factors such as absence of guarantee of acid principle. Compared to these challenges, the benefits of NoSQL are vast. It releases developers from many relational model boundaries and give roadmap to ease of development, big data models, data mining, rapid application development, etc. So today video presentation is end now. Thank you for watching.